I'm going to give you some steps to follow in this. Okay? I'm going to give you some steps to follow in this. The first step I want you to do is to ask yourself what traits and characteristics you assign to yourself based on your history. Look, you've watched yourself. You know yourself better than anybody else. What are the traits and characteristics that you have assigned to yourself? Maybe some of those are really negative. And I've told you how you form those. You form just like you form traits, characteristics, and concepts of anybody else. If there's somebody at the office that you think's a real brown nose, or you've got some friend that you think's a real two-faced gossip, or you've got some friend that you think is the most buttoned up, loyal, solid person you've ever met, why do you think you have those opinions of them? Good or bad, you form those opinions based on your observations of them. And that's exactly how you have formed your self-concept, your self-esteem, your level of self-worth. You have watched yourself. Maybe you choke when it comes down to those big moments in your life. Then write that down. Just say, hell, I'm a choker. It comes time to ask for a raise, I choke. It comes time to ask that pretty girl for a date, I choke. It comes time to approach that guy that I've been wanting to go out with, and I just don't do it. And maybe you have positive attributes as well. You say, when it comes down to it, I don't have any quit in me. I hang in there. I know that about myself. But I don't do it in certain areas of my life. I do it at work, but I don't do it in my social life. I do it with my friends, but I don't do it with my kids. I want you to ask yourself what attributes, traits, and characteristics have contributed to what's working and what's not working in your life. So do the autopsy. What's working and what's not working in your life? I'll give you an example. Everything that I'm telling you now, I did today. I wanted to review it. I did today. I wanted to sit down and say, okay, what are the things that I assign as attributes? What about my life is working and not working? And why do I think that's true? One of the things that's not working is work. I probably work too much. For example, right now, it's like, what time is it? It's 8 o'clock on a Sunday night. I could be in the recliner in the den with my feet up watching Sunday night football, but I'm not. I'm back here doing this because I'm very excited about it. Robin's upstairs doing something that she's probably excited about, but I realize that I probably work too much. So if I do an autopsy on my life, that thing I say a lot keeps haunting me in the back of my head. I've never met a man on his deathbed that said, I wished I'd spent more time at the office. Never met a man on his deathbed said, I wished I'd have spent more time working. But like I said earlier, for me, my vocation and my avocation are the same thing. I get a lot of currency from this. I love what I do, but I need to do a better job of balancing that. So if I'm writing out my life script, I need to spend more time not working. I have the ability to travel the world, but I don't do it very much. And I need to do that. I have the ability to see different places and different things. And I want to do that while I can. I don't want to wait till I'm too old. They got to drag me up there in a gunny sack or something and say, here, look out the hole in the gunny sack. See what's out there? I want to do it when I can do it. I realize if I write my life script, I need to relax more and find joy in some other sorts of things. So in my self-attribution, I'm a real hard worker. And when I get a hold of something, I'm like a dog with a bone. Man, I don't turn loose of it. But you can do that too much, and I think I do it too much. So as I do my autopsy, I recognize that, and that maybe it's time for me to reassess that and make a change. When I do my self-attribution list, I recognize I have a very cerebral approach to life. I'm much more cerebral in the way I approach the world and all the people in it than I am heartsy or emotional. That doesn't mean I'm not emotional. I'm just a lot more cerebral than I am feeling based. I mean, Robin, sometimes something really great will happen and I have a great sense of satisfaction inside, but I don't necessarily show it outside. And she'll say, come on, give me something. Give me a happy dance. Jump up and down. Do me a 360. Do something like throw caution to the wind and break into a smile. And I'm like, no, seriously, I'm happy. I really am. I'm really happy. And I have this great sense of satisfaction and fulfillment inside. But I'm not somebody that's going to run down the street with my arms over my head going, woo! I'm thrilled to death. That's not me. But I realize that's just the way I approach things, and it works for me. You always hear me ask people, so how's that working for you? Well, how's that working for me? Pretty damn well. Do I need to bounce it out a little more? Yeah, probably so. But on the other hand, it's working for me. My family's happy. My family's healthy. I get along with my wife. I get along with my boys. I think I've had a relative degree of success in my life. I'm in good health. I'm not depressed or anxious. I mean, it works for me. It's my comfort zone. I like it. I like to be intellectually challenged. So that would be an attribute that I would want to keep in my life script. So those are the kind of things I want you to look at. Is there something you do too much of or not enough of? Or the things that you just absolutely have to change? If you're a drug addict, stop. If you're an alcoholic, stop. If you're a rageaholic, stop. If you're disloyal and a two-faced backstabber, stop doing those things. Stop self-destructing. There are some things you just absolutely want to stop. If you're a bleeding heart liberal and that works for you, embrace it. Do it if that's what makes you happy. Do what works for you. You guys have probably heard me say many times, my dad used to say, and it's not just an intro or a lead-in for me. My dad used to say a lot of things to me as we were growing up. He was an alcoholic, but when he was sober, he was pretty insightful. I heard him say to me one time, I was talking about being in a bad situation, and he said, boy, you need to spend 5% of your time deciding whether the deal you've got is good or bad, and 95% of your time deciding what you're going to do about it. And that was really good advice that I took at a pretty young age. 5% of your time deciding whether what you've got, the hands you've been dealt, the situation you have in life. Okay, take 5% of your time and decide whether it's good or bad, fair or unfair, right or wrong. But then spend the rest of your time, the other 95% of your time saying, what am I going to do about it? Because really, that's where your power lies, right? It lies in what you're going to do about it. So I want you to do an autopsy and figure out, okay, how did I get here? And if you spend too much of your time saying so-and-so cheated me, so-and-so jerked me around, then you got your victim hat on too much. Because what I want you to focus on is what's your role in it? What did you do to get you there? Every time I talk to a couple that's getting ready to get married and it's their second or third marriage, I say, have you done a relationship autopsy? Have you gone back to the one that failed and figure out what you did to contribute to it failing? And if you haven't figured out what you contributed to the last one falling apart, you're not ready to get into another one. And you may say, well, but he was a jerk. That's the problem. He was a jerk. Well, okay, what did you own about that? You picked him. At least that. You picked him. You have to have some ownership in it. You have to figure out what it is you did that caused something to run off the road before you write this life script, because you don't want to take those things that got you where you don't want to be and carry them forward trying to get where you want to go. Like I've said before, I'm a pilot. If I got in the airplane and took off and just as I was climbing out, it crashed, if I lived and I got a ride back to the airport and got another airplane, took off and crashed, and I lived, and I got a ride back to the airport, got another airplane, don't you think somebody'd say, hey, wait a minute there, Phil. Why are you crashing? I don't know. Get out of the way. Whoa, wait a minute. Don't you think you ought to figure out why you're crashing before you take off again? If I can't figure that out, then somewhere a village is missing its idiot. I need to figure out why I'm crashing before I take off again, right? And I'm asking you to take off again in your life. I'm asking you to relaunch here. Let's go rolling down the runway. But if you haven't got exactly what you want so far, then you need to figure out what you did. And you can say, well, it was a crummy airplane. Well, it's bad weather. Well, then I picked a crummy airplane. I took off in bad weather. Somehow or another, you own how you got where you are. Don't be in denial about that. Don't blame everybody else because you have ownership. Figure out what it is so you don't repeat the mistakes you've made in the past.